afternoon and welcome once again to Friday Conversations with Reverend Alan. I am a moderator, Vivian Kibeu. Today we are going live. We will interact with you through our Facebook page, Zacenta and Alan Kiombe. Kindly follow us, ask questions, and feel free. Let this be an interactive session as I welcome our Reverend Alan just to give us an opening remarks on today's show.
Thank you. We once again welcome you into this program, our conversation. We are always blessed to have you. Today we are doing it live. We welcome you to interact with us in every way that you would want to interact with us. We've been dealing with toxic relationship. And remember, we started by dealing with toxic relationship in general. We dealt with toxicity in marriage. We spoke about spouses struggling with toxicity. We spoke about a toxic husband, a toxic wife, and this week we ended with toxicity in marriage, which was a very good conversation. Today we continue with toxic relationship, and we want to deal with toxic parents. Yeah, I welcome you.
Thank you. We are dealing with toxic parents and parenting, and I want to welcome on board our counselor psychologist, Janet Surum Kiplagat, all the way from University of Kabianga. We are always happy and we enjoy your company in this show. So I want us to begin by asking a simple question. What is parenting?
So maybe I can start. I think parenting is that act of raising up a family. Especially you stay in the place of being the raiser, and you are raising up some people. You are taking care of them, helping them, bringing up people. Yeah.
Okay, bringing up people. Janet, what is parenting?
I'm not far from what Reverend is saying. It is nurturant upbringing.
Nurturing and bringing.
Nurturant upbringing.
And bringing.
Yes.
Okay, and it involves children and people who are under you. That is interesting. I want us now to go into our topic about toxic parenting. And I want us to define what is a toxic parent or what is toxic parenting.
Yeah, we've actually talked about toxic relationship a lot, and we've dealt with toxic people and toxic husband, toxic wife. So I think to define or to describe toxic parents, it's good first of all to revisit what is toxic. What is toxic or toxicity in relationship? We said any behavior that is abusive in nature, behavior that is poisonous, that hurts others more than building them. So when we speak about toxic parenting, we're speaking about abusive parents. Parents that do not care about anything. They only care about themselves. And in the process, they end up hurting their children. And they hurt people that they are raising up. Yeah.
Janet, what is toxic parenting or a toxic parent?
Okay, in my perspective, also not far, a toxic parenting is parenting that is characterized by two things, neglect and abuse.
Neglect and abuse. Interesting. Which leads me to this question. What are some of the signs toxic parents exhibit, or what are some of the signs we pick in a society to know this parent is toxic?
Yeah, to know that a parent is toxic, and maybe one of the things that I want to bring to our attention, we speak about toxic parents. And you know, sometimes it takes more than one to be a parent. It can be somebody maybe be raised by one parent or several people as parents. So we want to deal per se with the one that is toxic. That's why we speak about toxic parent. Sometimes you may be raised up by both parents or several people that are called parents, but only one of them is toxic, whereas others are okay. Therefore, a sign that somebody is a toxic parent brings us almost to the same sign of a toxic person. Number one, I would say a toxic parent, you will know them by their controlling. They are very controlling. They want to control everything that goes on about their children and the people that they are raising, whether they are young or they are adults. They don't allow the people to exercise their free will and even to exercise their intelligence. You know, as much as you are bringing me up, but I have some level of intelligence and I have some level of free will. So one way you understand them, even to their elderly children, is controlling. They want to control even how you behave, the people that you are relating with, and they normally follow somebody up to the time of their adulthood, their workplace, the people they are relating with in their workplace, their marriage, how they are raising up their children. So as to enrich the discussion, I can allow Janet to say some, then I'll continue with the other part.
Yes, Janet, kindly pick up to let us know what are some of the signs that toxic parent carry around or they exhibit.
I look at a toxic parent, and by the way, even when someone is raised by one toxic parent, like one of them, one is toxic, if the other one is not aware of the bridge they're supposed to build, then both just become toxic. And so these children just grow up in a toxic environment. So a toxic parent or parents, they are characterized by a lot of guilt tripping. They want you to do things, and if you cannot do it for them, they guilt trip you, like, I will not bless you. If you go that road is not blessed. Yeah, things like that. Again, they desire to live their dreams through their children. So they force you into things, into careers, into marriages, into relationships, because that was their dream. Because they didn't achieve that dream, then you'll have to. That's why you see someone is taken to a certain course just because the parent says so. That is a toxic parent. Again, there's a lot of shifting blames in this toxicity. A toxic parent shifts blames from themselves to the child. So if you look at this, they are always rushers. They don't have wrongs. They are always good. A toxic parent also uses you. They only call you when they want something from you. Yeah, they cannot just call you to say, how you doing? Yeah, how you doing? What are you up to? They are not even keen on your achievements. They are keen on what they can receive from you. So if someone just calls you when they are in need, when they want sustenance, then that's toxic. And by the way, it is not the role of the child to give back in terms of taking care of a parent. If it becomes that because I took care of you, because I brought you up, I took you to good schools, then in turn it is my turn to be taken care of, that is toxicity. A child is a unique being who is supposed to be allowed to live their life independently of the parents' interference. So this thing of constantly wanting things from your children, that is toxicity.
I can add, I said later start, as she says about just wanting things from you, maybe we can say lack of empathy. Yeah. Parent does not empathize with you. They don't know what you are going through at what time. What they want is only money. They want your support. They don't care whether you are eating or you are sleeping hungry. They just want what they need. They don't care about how you are taking care of your own family or you are taking care of your job. It's just about them. Everything is about them. They really don't care about what their children are feeling. As Janet says, they just call you from nowhere. They don't ask you how you are feeling, whether you are okay or not, but they're asking you for money, they're asking you for help, they're asking you for a certain support. So you would know them by lack of empathy. And I say this thing starts when somebody is young, up to the time somebody is old. The toxic parents will still behave the same, but will be graduating in his or her behavior into another degree. So you need to know that if every time your parent just calls you because of them, not because of you. Somebody told me their parent called them when they were going for an operation, and and this person told the parent, I am scheduled for operation in the next 15 minutes. And the parent entered the phone. The parent just wanted money. So this is a toxic parent. Number two, I would also add negatively reactive. Parent is so negatively reactive. Whether the children are small or are big, negatively reactive. Every time they don't have control to their emotions. They have a lot of emotions outbursts. They can insult you. They can make you feel bad every time they speak with you. They are so angry every time, quarrelsome every time. They can be verbally abusive. That is one sign that this parent is toxic. They can do it to small children. They can do it to big children. They can call you when you are with your wife and children and they start insulting you because they are very angry with you. I would also add as highly critical. They are very critical, hypercritical. They don't see any good from you. They keep on putting you down, accusing you, saying you have not done better. You try in school, they insult you that you are not doing better. You are trying in life, they insult you. They are so critical in small mistakes that you are doing. They want to amplify them. They always look for an opportunity to put you down. And then maybe blaming, as Janet said, they don't take responsibility of anything. Anything happens, someone else is to be blamed. And mostly the children. Yeah.
Okay. And just a minute, if we shift it the other way, even not providing for children is toxic. Substance abuse in the confines of the home is also toxicity. Why I say provision? Because the holistic child stems from these other very, very subtle things, like even the home environment. If the home environment is not secure, if you live in a home where even, let me just give a very, I don't know if it happens to some, but a house with no windows or windows broken, you're denying the children's safety, and this eventually affects even their self-esteem, the way Reverend is saying. So those small things that children are denied, or they are overindulged in, even lack of disciplining children, that is toxicity. Agreeing to everything a child says is toxicity. Failing to listen to them again is toxicity.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Yes.
Just to,
Reverend.
So that we don't miss on that, he said substance abuse is a sign of a toxic parent. If a parent keep on drinking alcohol, coming home in front of the children, that is a toxic parent. Well, you are raising up children in a wrong way. If a parents keep on abusing drugs, come home, abuse others, making noise, quarrel, disturb everybody's peace, that is a toxic parent. They don't really care what you feel. Sometimes they can even do it in front of your colleagues. They can do it in front of your peer mate. So that's that.
Maybe
and denial of affirmation.
Denial of affirmation. Maybe just to bring it home, we are in a house where our parents are there. Maybe some of the signs that we see day to day. I think we've talked of the bigger signs, but there are these signs that we see day to day. For instance, when you are not maybe taking care of the children well, providing them the meals that they deserve, clothing that they deserve, you're not involved in their development stages. When there is a school progress activity, you're not there. When your child is doing something, you don't care. You're too busy. You wake up in the morning, you communicate through letters. Children, if they want to talk to you, they write letters to you. And you just come and read and maybe answer back or not answer back. Sometimes we bribe our children because we are absent. And I see it as very toxic, because we are raising up children that feel when you're not there, you have to give me something. And I think when you're not there, you come back maybe with a big... Another sign of toxicity is when parents are not agreeing. Then they decide to use children as their shields in homes. They decide to use children as their shields in home. When you are quarreling, then a parent takes a favorite child, and then they use that child as a shield. When you are ganging up and saying, oh, mommy is not good or daddy is not good, that is also toxicity that we see in our day-to-day homes. Another level of toxicity when we see in our day-to-day homes is the issue of when you really don't understand the dreams and the visions your child is pursuing. The way you were raised is the way you raise them. You keep on telling them, ngangana, pambana. And you see, those are things we see in our house day to day. The materials we watch, the conversations we keep with our friends. Sometimes we pollute the mind, we pollute the environment of our children. And I think when we go back down, the signs of yelling, shouting, even the way we answer back to each other as parents. When the man is speaking, he is very authoritative, very mean. When the woman is speaking, she's very shouting and very, she doesn't have guards. You see, those are some of the things we see in our homes in a day-to-day activity.
And maybe again, sometimes when the parent is not morally, is not behaving well morally. Let us say a mother brings another man, different men in her house in front of the children as the children are growing. Every day they see different men coming. The ones that are normally called uncle, the other uncle, the tall uncle, the dark
brother.
uncle. You see, it's a toxicity. When parents don't care what they keep in the house, some parents even keep substance and drugs even in the fridge. Others they put it in the shelves in front of the children. Others hold drinking parties in their houses in front of their children, and sometimes even they expose their children to be abused. Because I've seen people that are saying, I was raised up in a family that we were brewing alcohol and I was raped when I was young. So that's also toxic parenting. And I can also remember about those parents that they are nowhere when their children are studying. They don't care. At the end of the term, when the children performs poorly, he just appears to beat up the children, then disappears until the next examination. So I would say those build toxic parenting.
Okay.
And while you were talking, I remembered something. There is this thing of favoritism. Parents favor some children over some. Maybe because I had someone complain that the man favors children who look like him, who resemble him. Yeah, and
That's
by the
serious.
way, there was a very clear-cut line. If you resemble me, I treat you well. So you see, even the children will grow up hating each other. It is really toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favoritism, when you prefer other children over the rest that God has given you. Maybe this child is well disciplined, the other one has the issues. So in our day-to-day living, these signs are there in our homes. These signs are there in the society, and it is good for us to address these issues as we are continuing to engage, ask questions, follow us, and see us live today. We continue by discussing some of the types of toxic parents that we have in society, or we see in society. Because when you watch the news, when you go to school, when you come to church, when you come to social organizations or gatherings, there are these people within us. And what are some of the types that we have as toxic parents, so that we can enlighten each other and make this conversation more elaborate for us to understand?
Okay, maybe I'll start with controlling parents. And controlling parents, it's my way or the highway. In other words, they are referred to as authoritarian parenting. The parents or the parent, the one parent or both parents are the one who call the shots. So the children is just do as I say. Don't question anything that I say. So if you have grown up or you are raising children in an environment where they have no say, these children cannot tell you what they feel about issues. They are not allowed to pursue dreams, to pursue careers that they like. Then that is toxic. And I need to emphasize that it is more of authoritarian parenting. And then another aspect is verbal abuse. Yeah. A lot of wordiness, and these words are abusive. They are harsh. You call your child, maybe you look like your mother. Your mind is like your mother. Your mind is like your father. That's why you are performing that way. I don't know. I just don't know why I gave birth to you. Those words that are hurting, that are continuously uttered in the process of parenting. And allow me also to say this, that these experiences, which are otherwise referred to as adverse childhood experiences, they become more harsh on the child in future when they occur between 0 to 18. 0 meaning even when the child is in the womb. So the experiences that the child has when they are in the womb, all the way up to when they are 18 years old, will eventually affect who they become.
So you talk of controlling parents, verbal abusing parents.
Yes.
Yes, Pastor.
Yeah, I would take the substance abuser.
Mm-hmm.
There are parents that are substance abusers. The ones that I've said they come home drunk. They don't care how they look like in front of everyone, making their children to grow up in shame. They come home, they speak whatever they want to speak. I have seen substance abusers that they get so drunk outside there. People come and call their children to come and carry your father, come and take your father home. So I've seen the substance abusers that they go and take drugs or substance outside there, and the people come at home and take even food from the house because the parent is not able to pay. So I would say substance abuser. Sometimes they get to a place that they cannot even meet their obligations as parents, but they can afford to take substance. So they keep on hurting their children every time. I have said, and I will say again, substance abusers, parents who keep substance in the shelves, in the bedrooms, in the table. Sometimes they drink alcohol in front of the children. Sometimes they throw parties in front of the children in the house, and the children are so vulnerable, and even they don't know how to behave. Those are other types of toxic parent. Another type I would say is sexual abusers.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual abusers, and it's nowadays very rampant. Sometimes it comes from the very biological parents, or it is brought in by a parent, one parent that has invited another person to co-parent with, that is not biological. So you hear people saying, the man that was living with my mother abused me sexually, or even touched me, or played with me when the mother is not around. I handled a case some times back whereby a child was being abused by the man that was living with the mother. And when the child tells the mother quietens the child. It tells the child, you are not going to speak, because the mother feels that she's going to lose that man if this thing comes out. And the abuse continued and continued. I've also handled a case in many occasions whereby the man that lives with the mother abuses the daughters, and the daughters are afraid of telling the mother because the mother will not believe them. They will keep on believing the man. So sexual abusers are also type of the toxic parents.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many, and there are so many. They
Maybe
sometimes even can expose them to pornography. There's another one who removes clothes in front of the children, and the children are seeing and they can do nothing about it. Yeah.
And also we have these physical abusers, which are also rampant, and it has been framed intimate partner violence. But it has a lifelong effect on the children. So if if parents are abusive, physically abusive towards each other, or even towards the children, because by the way, even when you physically discipline your child without explaining why you are doing so, and without explaining the alternative behavior, you are being abusive. Yeah.
So there's the physical abuser, there's the sexual abuse. Even boys are being abused by parents, and not only girls. We see the verbal abuse whereby negative words. Every time you talk to your child, you don't open your mouth to encourage, you just open your mouth to discourage, which is very interesting types of toxic parents. And some of these things we do daily without noticing that we're becoming toxic to our children. Because when we speak about them, we discover these are some of the things you embrace. So we have grown knowing that it's just, it's normal. It's a normal way. And you know, if you behave normally to some of these things, the society becomes very abnormal. Which brings me to a question that I've been pondering. Do parents know that they are toxic?
Most toxic parents would tell you that they love their children, and they always think that they love their children, and they always think that is the best way. Most toxic parents think this is the best way that I am doing for my children. Thinks that what I'm doing is the best, with an exception of people like substance abusers or sexual abusers. But these other ones, they think this is the best way. If I am too harsh on my children, if I keep on shouting them down, they pride in people saying, "Huyu parent ni mkali sana." They pride on that. So they even close the bridge where the people that you are raising can come to you for help. So majority don't know that they are toxic, but there is a group that know that this behavior is not good. They may not be knowing it's toxic, but they don't know this behavior is not good. Even those that are following their children to adulthood as toxic parents, as we say, they don't empathize, they don't care. They don't know even they are abusing their children. They think that it's just their rights to get those benefits from their children. Calling your children to give you money to raise you up, they think it's just their right. And as we go deeper in discussion, we'll discover there's a possibility they were raised up by toxic parents, or they grew up in a toxic environment. So it is just replaying.
So this is a cycle that is continuing. As a psychologist,
Yeah.
do toxic parents know they are toxic?
Okay, for me, I'd say yes and no, because actually it depends on your level of awareness, level of awareness and level of information. If you know, if you've gone through maybe seminars, you may know that you are toxic. Like me, I know my level of toxicity is in I can say verbal, yelling, shouting, a lot of shouting. Yeah, you cannot even bring down your voice. You cannot talk.
You end up hurting.
And you end up hurting your children. You end up intimidating them. They have a low self-esteem because of the yelling tendencies. But I would tell you for sure, at least 90% don't know they are toxic. Yes, and we thank God for this program because it is bringing awareness. Yes.
And there is this issue again that is coming up in my mind. There are these parents who are so quiet. They are so quiet. They are so silent. They're just there. They are there to be seen. They pay school fees. They are at home early, but they are aloof. They're in their own world. Is that a sign of a toxic parent?
I think she said something about neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Neglect can be physical provisions. Maybe you don't give them what they need, like school fees, money, or everything. But again, neglect can be emotional. You are emotionally detached. You are not involved in their emotional lives. You don't speak with them. You don't hear what they are saying. You are just absent in their presence. So it's a toxic parent. And actually, if the way we were trying to classify types of toxic parents, we can call it emotional abusers. They are the opposites of the aggressive ones, the verbal ones. They are the opposite. The silent one are the opposite. How would you feel if I come into this program and I just keep quiet? I am abusing you.
By the aloofness, it is a negative trait in parenting. And here, we are not even talking about those people who are naturally quiet. You see, these ones are uninvolved. It's like they are watching from a distance. And of course, they are supervising. In their watching, they are supervising. I remember personally an incident where I was harassed by a tout some time back when I was young. And my dad was in the same vehicle. And he did not talk. Just imagine.
Was it toxic or he didn't want?
Oh God.
Maybe he knew it will be.
No, but
toxic.
at least he would have defended me because this tout was so verbal, calling me names. In fact, he called me a hoe. Like, yes, we umetoka shughuli zako, you see? But my dad was all
okay.
and focused on the journey. Yes.
Hope he didn't want to beat up the tout.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
You know, sometimes the toxic parent, they exclude themselves.
Yeah.
They exclude themselves from you. And that's why we say they lack empathy. As long as you are with them, as long as they are okay, they lack empathy.
But I think in retrospect, I think he thought that is the best way of dealing with some people. You just keep quiet. You don't engage.
You
But
argue
it is
with the-
hurting,
Don't
you
argue
know.
with the fool.
Yeah. So I think he's a scientist.
You've kept it
A scientist.
for a long time. You need to understand, maybe he didn't want to go rough, or maybe he didn't want to fight back. This topic is very interesting, and maybe just to ponder and ask ourselves, is it a mental health issue when we are discussing about toxic parents? Could it be we are blaming the iceberg, yet this thing started way back, way back? The way Pastor has said, that is the only way these people know how to raise. Maybe you were beaten, so you know the only way to raise children is through beating. Maybe you saw your father absent, so the best way is for you to also be absent. Maybe it's a culture that is being given down and down and down. Is it more of mental? Because now we are talking about the parent, and parents may feel like we are attacking us because this is the lifestyle I was given. You see a lot of pedophiles. They tell you, I was abused when I was young. A lot of people who drink alcohol or do you do drugs, they tell it is my father or my mother who introduced me to this. A lot of people who come into maybe physical abuse, especially boys, when they see their father beating their mother, eventually when they grow up, the only way to deal with a woman is to beat. Because I don't know, my understanding as a counselor and also as a spiritual leader, could it be a problem that is way beyond?
Okay, in my reasoning and in my opinion, maybe this toxicity it's not mental health. Actually, it's not mental health. It is just a vicious circle of abuse that we are used to, and it has become the normal way of life and the right way of life. But you see, if it becomes now an issue in mental health when this person who is toxic is not aware of themselves and cannot handle their toxicity. When people are not aware of their toxic nature, then it grows into a mental health issue. Because you realize when you're discussing about the signs of toxic people, most of those issues were bordering on mental illnesses. So if a circle of toxicity is carried on and on, it becomes mental. But again, you see, there are some that cannot be mental. There are some that cannot grow into mental. I think they abused. This one who is the receiver, whom we call the victim of this toxicity, is the one who may experience, they are likely to experience a mental breakdown. Yes.
I know you're almost calling us to a break, but very quickly I would say it's to some extent it can be a mental health issue, but as a product, it can be a product of a mental health, especially to a person who is practicing. It can be, that behavior can be a product of what this person, the struggles of this person. Actually, a toxic person always has a problem with themselves. They have an unresolved problem with themselves. It could be their past, it could be their fears, and even it could be their future. So they normally have a problem with themselves. And that's why I say that thing that is the problem with themselves is the mental part of it. But the action may not be mental. That is lastly. The actions may not be mental. Number two, again, it may not be mental health per se. It could be a nature, a behavior as a result of nature. Something somebody has learned and think this is fashionable. So it can be in a two-way. Maybe we can discuss it a little bit deeper when we come from, yeah.
Well, thank you. We take a short break for us. We invite you to follow us live on our Facebook page, Jesus Center Ministry, our YouTube page, Jesus Center, and also Alan Kiombe Facebook page. We invite you to interact with us as we take a short break. See you soon. welcome. We want to appreciate as we continue from our break. We thank Carlos Kaptich for your comment. We love the show. The topic has a strong content. We appreciate Helen Kerio, Fanny Smito, Peris Cherono Magito, Judy Achieng, Linda Wabuko, Anthony Cheriot. And Anthony is saying, this is good. Hopefully I can learn how to deal with it in my own home. Great work. Thank you, Anthony Cheriot. Naomi Awino is watching with us. Frida Tanui, and she has commented by saying, wonderful topic. John Auma too is on board watching with us. Thank you. We appreciate those who are watching with us. Thank you for your comments. And we also continue with this wonderful show with Reverend Alan Kiombe in this conversation and our able psychologist, Counselor Janet Surum Kiplagat. And I want to begin by asking us, what are some of the signs you know that a child has a toxic parent? What are some of the signs? We've talked about the signs of toxic parents, but now we narrow to children. We narrow to this boy, to this girl. What are some of the things they exhibit so that they are crying out or they are showing that I am coming from a toxic home?
I would say having a toxic parent is a very heavy blow in a human composition. It's like you're being struck by something, and you can always feel the effect. Sometimes immediately, sometimes it takes long. It builds slowly by slowly. And that's why I said one of the reasons as to some people are toxic parents is because they are exhibiting the effect of them being raised up by toxic parents. They are a sign that they were raised up by toxic parents. So I would start by saying you would know them, number one, by their esteem. The toxicity of the parents hits the esteem of a child. Esteem, in other words, is the self-image, how they look up at themselves, their image of the self. It's normally very low. They always despise themselves. They always feel they are not equal to the task. They always look like they are not confident to pursue their lives, because their image of themselves have been wounded and cannot stand in front of the people. To some extreme cases, because of their image, they always like to hide from the public, because it's like everybody knows what they are going through, and what they are going through is not a good thing. They like to hide from the public. They like to hide from the limelight. So they allow themselves to take a second position. They run away from the first positions of life because of the way the toxicity has acted on them. Number two, I would also say one of the way to know it is how they don't like discussing their parents. When others are discussing about their parents, when others are proud about their parents, this one would not want to discuss their parents. They don't want to mention their parents. Actually, they are ashamed of their parents. They are not happy with their parents. They are not proud of their parents. So if you find other people are discussing about their parents, but so and so is so quiet about their parents. Another thing I would also say could be aggressiveness. This is an outward protest of what they are going through silently, because having a toxic parent is a silent frustration. So there's an outward protest. A child becomes very aggressive, looking for attention elsewhere. And I would also say maybe you will also know them by the way they are seeking assurance. They are seeking affirmation from outside there. When they are with their friends don't say anything about how they look like, they have a beef with them. When teachers don't say, they are just looking for affirmation. And in the process, they end up becoming very loose in life. They can even become immoral. They can even become rowdy in their lives, because they are looking for affirmation. Therefore, they have to shout to call for attention. Yeah.
Janet, what are some of the signs we see in our children to know that this child, this boy, this girl is coming from toxic parents or toxic home?
Okay, from what, just to pick up, this low self-esteem is very prevalent in children who are young, especially the ages of around 5 to the ages of 13. When they grow onto teenagehood, it now turns into, it is low self-esteem, yeah, but attention-seeking behaviors. These things of being unruly, these things of being rude, substance abuse, drug abuse, we can say antisocial, these antisocial traits, they are consequences of toxic upbringing or toxic parenting. Now, you'll also find there are some children who love being away from home, visiting relatives, etc. As in, it is always better when we are away than when we are home. I don't know if you've seen such.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have children who love just visiting people, but when it comes to being home, they don't like being home. Another thing that I would say is a trait of children who have been raised by toxic parents is the spirit of competition. Everything in this life is a competition, including nothing. So anything they get into, be it dressing, be it class, be it you see these children who say nyumba yetu tumejenga ni mzuri kuliko yenyu, and they are very young children, but they are talking big things. That is toxicity. My parents do this, your parents don't. The spirit of competition that begins when they are very young, and you can just find them in their normal conversations, very innocent, but there is toxicity. This comparison is also a symbol of a lot of toxicity. As in, I am Janet, but I know that I am not enough. I need approval. I need affirmation. There's a lot of toxicity there. And these people who are self-absorbed, everything centers around them. If it is not them, it is not worth talking about. Have you ever told someone your issue, then they bring up theirs, they downplay yours? Those traits of being self-centered, self-absorbed is also a symbol of someone who has been brought up in a lot of toxicity. Falling into the wrong relationships when finally you are a teenage, you are an adult. Wrong marriages. By the way, these things are they are predetermined. If you are brought up in a toxic environment, you'll have a low self-esteem. So you will fall for anything, even those that are below your level. I think that one we should not even it should be emphasized that the way as parents bring up our children, we determine their life chances. We determine the marriages they are going to get into. If we bring up a child who will understand that they are worthy through our proper child rearing practices, then the children are going to make good decisions. A child who has been brought up in a toxic environment is a very poor decision maker, or almost indecisive. They cannot say no. And another trait is that they don't have boundaries. They cannot say no. They cannot stand up for themselves and speak and say no. That way, I am not going that way. And that is why you ask why we have a lot of premarital sex. Maybe you'd say because people have fallen for sin, but I would say it's because of the toxicity that people have been brought up in, and so they are looking for approval in appropriate quarters.
Wow, interesting. The issue of bullying is also a sign of a child who was brought in a very toxic environment. The bullies we see around, the issue of values, low values, or you throw away your values because there is no affirmation from home. Then another issue I see in children, they have low negotiating power. They don't know what they are of. They are what they are made of. So they just take anything, or they just leave. You see these children who just leave their things to be taken by other people. Another thing I've also noticed on when you want to see a toxic child around is the way they speak, the way they walk, the way these are now non-verbals, the way they eat. Sometimes they don't know how to be appreciated. Have you gone through somebody and you tell them you are okay, you look great, you have done them? I've witnessed friends that you tell them, hey, you had the best, your presentation was okay, and then somebody tells you, why are you Why are you mocking me, or why are you lying to me? You approach somebody and you tell them your dress is nice. They tell you, I not like yours. Those are some of the things that we see when we grow up, that people have been in toxic homes and they're not aware. Yes,
I
Reverend.
would also say they lack independence. Because their esteem has been wounded. They cannot make, as she said, they cannot make decisions. Again, they cannot be independent. They are dependent on others. They don't trust themselves to make a right step. They don't trust themselves. So every time they would want to depend on somebody else to make decisions for them. And that's why they are easily driven into wrong direction or wrong group, because they depend on somebody to make decision on them. Again, on top of that, the issues of lacking independence, even when they come to the adult life, they end up getting somebody in marriage that will rule over them and do anything that they want with them, because they cannot make a decision. So they try as much as possible to follow, and they normally end up following a wrong person. I would also say about them, what I would also say about them is, as I spoke about lack of confidence, most of them don't do well in life because they don't have confidence to try anything new, because they are used to being abused by their parents. So they don't, and even if you give them good thing in life, they easily mess it up. They don't know how to handle a blessing. They don't know how to handle a good thing. So maybe I would say that. And as Janet said, when they grow up, the antisocial behaviors, some of them are very arrogant, very abusive again. They insult others, they look down upon others. They are actually healing themselves by doing what was done to them to others, assuring themselves that this is a normal way. Nilikanyagwa huko, so mimi nikanyage mtu ndio nipone. Yeah.
Interesting. The other aspect of antisocial is withdrawal. There are people who don't speak. There are children who sit alone. They walk alone. They don't trust anybody. There is the trust issues in children. They don't trust anyone. Which brings me to this other topic that I think it will help us, so that parents can, who are listening, I've seen Beatrice Yegon has just joined us. We appreciate you. And I want to ask us, what are some of the effects that this toxicity brings, the effects of a toxic parent? What are some of the effects, the results that we see around? In parents and in children, it's two-way. The effect, when you become toxic, you know, one parent can be toxic, another one is not. Or both parents can be toxic. What are some of the effects we see in society, in homes? Some hit the headlines very hard in our 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock news. What are some of the effects?
I would say it may cause either distrust or mistrust in a society. A bridge of confidence towards each other is collapsed. So because the child just survives because this is my parent, I don't have otherwise. So there's nothing deep between them. That cohesiveness of a family is not there. So the child will grow up not minding so much about pleasing the parents, because after all they are never pleased. And even the parent again will not get time or opportunity to get close to the child. So that cohesiveness that normally builds trust, that I can run to you and you can run to me in times that I need help. I would also say it could be a source of many aggressive behaviors like violence, drug and substance abuse. As children are looking for assurance, affirmation, and even comfort, sometimes they end up looking for it outside. They go to alcohol and substance abuse as a result. I would also say self-esteem issue also is replayed in this particular place. The esteem is wounded and destroyed, and it kills people. Strong people will no longer be strong. They grow up becoming weakling that cannot survive in life, and then maybe struggles with their emotions imbalances, lack of emotional intelligence in life. Their choices of life becomes very poor.
Yes, Janet.
Maybe I would just give a classic example of toxic parenting, or maybe I don't know, marriage or something, but it is tied to the parents. You remember the incident that graced our screens, about the man who dosed petrol on the wife and burnt her. That is now the highest level of an effect of toxicity that was not addressed. And you see, you can say that maybe you may think that this person is not in their right senses, but they are in their right senses. It's only that the issues were not mitigated. One thing I would say is a very adverse effect on individuals, because it starts from individuals as it moves to the society. There's a lot of fakeness, masks. People are masking. I want to marry you, let me mask. I'll unmask when we finally meet. I want to talk to you, let me mask. I cannot say who I am, because I have so many unresolved conflicts. Just imagine a situation where parents are toxic, children become toxic, the next generation become toxic, and I think even as time goes by, it becomes worse. The toxicity is becoming worse. People no longer have that conscience that can direct them. But I would say the adverse effect again is low self-esteem. To me as a counselor, as a psychologist, we are all tied. All the spheres of our lives are determined by our esteem. Once it is crushed, we are toxic. If we have a powerful self-image or self-worth, for that matter, or even better, self-concept, we can be all round. There's no way a person with a poor a poor body image will achieve their maximum best. No. For me, toxicity goes to esteem, and we cannot rise above our esteem.
Interesting. Reverend Alan, do you have something more to say on effects of toxic parents in society, in home?
I love the way she says our self-image, self-esteem is everything. All these antisocial behaviors, all these extremes that we are seeing, is like a cloth to cover our low self-esteem, our wounded esteem. So if the esteem is okay, a human being becomes okay. You look for people who abuse substance, the problem is the esteem. You look for people who are abusing others, the problem is the esteem. So that's a cloth, a cover, that I don't want you to see what I'm lacking. But if we are able to rebuild the esteems of the people, okay, I don't have so much to say about the effect. In the society, I think it just destroys that structure. People cannot, people don't know how to solve problem by dialogue, by discussing, because somebody is raised up in an atmosphere that somebody was just shouting on them. So if there is any problem, they don't know. They either run away from an issue, they cannot confront an issue. They either run away or they confront it aggressively in a bad way. People cannot come into a place that they can discuss a matter to the level of understanding. So that toxic relationship, toxic parents normally kill that structure in the society. I'm raised up by a parent. There was no conversation. There was nothing like discussion. It was only shouting and bad things happening. I come into a society. I go into a place of work. I find myself in a problem. How do I solve this problem? I cannot go and confront. I cannot approach my boss, but I just have to do something to run away from it or to fight it in a wrong way. So it brings just a wrong society.
So a lot of disorder we see, a lot of weakening of the social fabric in society is also an effect from toxic parents.
Yeah.
And then when people make wrong decisions, when people take law in their hands, there's a lot of disorderliness, there's a lot of indiscipline. Actually, there's a lot of issues surrounding our toxicity, and the effects are adverse. At some point, the issues to do with divorce, separation, the issues to do with what we see in society, when people cannot stand up and own up. You know, there are people who don't own up. You deny till the end. You cannot say sorry. There is the issue of respect, lack of respect that has really faded away. people are using each other. There's a lot of being used, and people are using each other. Nowadays, there's no genuine relationship. It's what am I gaining in this relationship? Then there's some characters we see. Characters.
People cannot manage a process in life because they were just living. So if there is anything that uses a process to survive, they don't know how to.
There are these characters like lying.
To survive.
Yes.
They are protracted liars.
Not to survive with a toxic parent. If you don't handle it, you have to be a liar.
There's these characters like lying. Then there's these characters of you neglecting yourself. There are people who've neglected themselves. They don't take care of themselves. They are just there. You ask somebody, why you're not manning up, why you're not being an adult. You see, there are these people who are so big, but now they don't take responsibility. There's the issue of not taking responsibility as effects that we see from toxic parents, which leads me to these questions. How can we manage? Pastor said the issue of managing. How do we manage? How do we handle? How do we deal with toxic parents?
The remedy, how to deal with them. Maybe I'll start by first of all acknowledging and realizing that you are a toxic parent and you are living in an environment with a toxic parent. And depending with the stage of life that you're living in, when you are still a child, sometimes it's hard to deal with it. When you are grown up, now you can have power to deal with it. But number one would be creating boundaries. Making sure you determine how to what level I'm going to allow my parents to come to me, what they can take from me and what they can put in me. Even when you are young, even when you are still under their care, you can still work on yourself to the level that you say, this one is the toxic mother, even though she's doing this, but I will allow my mind, my spirit to permit up to this level. But as you keep on growing, just create boundaries. This is what I can do with my parents up to the year. When it gets past this one, I'm not responsible, I'm not involved. And that is the best way of handling a toxic parent. Just create boundary. If he keeps on insulting you, you say, if we are meeting for you to insult me, I'm not meeting with you until the time you know that we are coming to have a sober discussion. If the parent keeps on asking you for money, they don't care, you say, I can help my parent up to this level. Past this level, I'm not going to do that. So create the boundary. Boundary will help you to survive, because mtu hawezi pita mpaka yenye umemwekea, mtu uingia penye umemfungulia. And then maybe because of time, our time is going, I can also say love yourself. Self-care, love yourself. Don't allow yourself to die because of somebody that has decided to die. Just be good to yourself, treat yourself well, avoid things and situations that will eat on yourself. As you love yourself and you build your esteem, you'll be able to handle their toxicity. And maybe lastly, because of time, involve others that have authority over that person. Involve their parents, involve a community also, and tell them this is what's happening. Talk to my parent, even though you cannot change them, but you can mitigate on what they are doing towards your life.
I think I would first say it is a very can I say a very fragile. It's like walking on eggs, on eggs, because these are parents. So I would still insist, even when we are trying to deal with the consequences or these toxic parents, maintain respect. How to maintain respect? Reverend has clearly said, maintain boundaries. Learn to say no. Actually, teach people how to treat you. Don't just accept anything that comes your way. People will slowly get used to what you stand for. Because if you accept everything, then it becomes a problem. Again, quit being a people pleaser. You cannot please everyone. You cannot meet everyone at their point of needs. So it boils down to still establishing boundaries, learning to say no. So when it does not make you happy, say no. If it is to parents, but in a very respectful way, because it may lead to another thing. So still respect them, but establish boundaries. Teach people how to treat you, and love yourself. Love yourself.
Love yourself.
Yes.
Wow, thank you. A message to toxic parents. What is your message as a panelist? How do you address? I know there are parents who are watching who are verbal abusers, sexual abusers, substance controlling, authoritative, and we've seen this thing is really eating the fabric of our society. What is your message as a counselor? And then Reverend Alan will wind up the show for us. What is your message to toxic parents?
I would say, because toxicity is it has very, very, very adverse consequences. Please just accept, come to the awareness that toxicity is indeed something bad. That you may be toxic. Accept that you may be toxic, and then again, this is something that you can do intentionally, because parenting is intentional. Bringing up children is intentional. I would advise parents to be very intentional in dealing with these children, especially from 0 to 18 years. When you're expectant, be intentional about how you're going to carry yourself, what you're going to feed into your system, the emotions that you're going to carry around. When children are finally in this world, even in the minutest of things, be very intentional. Choose to deal with it in a healthy way. This yelling, shouting, words, substance, no, it has adverse consequences. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say the Bible says that children are a heritage from God, and blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. Every time we treat the people that we are raising up as a blessing from the Lord, heritage from God, that God has entrusted us with them, it is because we know that there is something God has put in us that we need to put in them. Therefore, all our actions, all our words, all our behaviors, they are a seed that we are putting in our children. And this seed keep on growing together with the children. As they grow, the same seed will become a big plant, and at some time, it will produce fruit. After some time, me as a parent, I may end up replicating myself to my child. And what would I want my child to be in the future? And if I'm guided by this, I'll try to be cautious, and I'll try to be intentional and guided every time I'm handling my child. I would actually tell parents our children are human beings. They have feelings, they have emotions, and whatever we are doing to them, we are either building them or we are demolishing them. Sometimes we are encouraging them or we are discouraging them. So sometimes we are hurting them, and we think that we are comforting them. So my prayer for every parent is, let us be careful as we handle our children. Let us handle them in a godly way. Let us bring them up in a way that we would want ourselves to be brought up. I would say our children are not the extension of the conflict that we are having inside of us. They are not an extension. Our children have come to our lives so that we may care for them, protect them, provide for them, but not to extend the conflict that we are going through into them. Every time we shout on them, every time we abuse them, every time we do anything to them, we make them an extension of our inner conflict. And lastly, let us try to look for help if we think we are excess to our children. Let us look for somebody, and we can also run to God, because He is our maker and He knows our frames. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A deep topic, a disturbing topic, and we just want to say thank you for, we've been live. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your viewership. And I want just to encourage us all as we walk through the journey of parenting that a normal family situation is where parents are concerned how their children are doing and what they are feeling. In toxicity or a toxic home, parents don't care about their children's feelings at all. Only their feelings matter. Which brings to a way of closing this show by saying children should not have to sacrifice so that you can have the life you want. But you need to make sacrifices as a parent, a father, or a mother to your children so that they can have the life that they deserve. Let us work together. Let us mend our society. Let us raise healthy families. Let us be healthy parents by listening to what Reverend Alan has spoken Our cancer sexology has spoken. And we want to thank our sound man, Carlos, our producer, Derek. It's always nice working with you guys. Big up. Thank you for being with us in this show. See you next Friday again on Friday Conversation with Reverend Alan. Thank you. God bless you.